Hello, today I'm talking with Jonathan Higgs from Everything Everything. Hello, Jonathan.
Hello.
Um, and we are going to talk about ugly music in all its forms. Maybe not all its forms, but there's a range of ugly stuff here. So we've both chosen a couple songs to talk about. I
Yeah.
think it's best if we just kind of dive straight into it and just kind of take it bit by bit and kind of explore the different versions of ugly music that are out there. I think we might want to start with Dean Heslop Say You're Sorry, but if you're happy
Oh
with starting
wow,
with that one.
great, great. I love it.
Time the pain. If you say you're sorry, we can work things out. Be like we used to when we were young.
This song was completely new to me actually when you suggested it.
Huh?
But it's very much in line with a lot of like other random YouTube. I guess we could call it outsider art if we're being slightly more generous.
Hmm.
But yeah, so I guess it's actually quite an old tune. I think YouTube said it was like 9 or 10 years old. I
It
just have
is.
never
Yeah.
come across it. So how did you did you just come across it on your online travels as kind of people
Um,
do?
Good question. So I've been listening to that for probably 7 or 8 years. I've got quite a few friends that sort of dabble in sharing this kind of thing, and there's a few
Hmm.
subreddits I go to that are sort of, this kind of thing does well on. I can't remember exactly who showed me this. I think it might maybe it was Jack from Foles, but I think it might be the other way around with that one. But he's really into this sort of world as well.
Right, right.
Um, so yeah, I've been listening to it for a great many years. It's sort of I wouldn't even say guilty pleasure. It's more of a pleasure, really.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah,
I always forget just how far he goes with it.
yeah, yeah.
And many a sort of post pub YouTube binge is this is like the main event, like a
Yes,
sing
yeah,
along.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, I found this all quite interesting because unlike maybe a couple of the other songs that will come later, or a lot of like songs in this genre, like this dude
Hmm.
has some idea of how to put together a song. Do you know what I mean? Like
Definitely does.
he understands
Yeah.
song structure. I find it really weird how the first verse, it felt to me like an intro. I was like, oh, this is the intro, and it's like gearing up, but it's just
Yeah.
like a 1 minute long verse, and I was just like,
Yeah.
it doesn't really like turn into the song until you get to like a. But then there is like a pre-chorus and a chorus. I'm like, oh, this dude
The
actually
chorus is
gets it.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's like you think you're in the chorus and then suddenly it just keeps going up and
Yeah, yeah.
it's like he hasn't planned the key, it feels like, and it's like, are you sure, mate? Are you sure? And then he just keeps
Yeah,
going, you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
I've been watching a few of his other videos, and I think he is in um, music. I think he's maybe teaches music, or definitely has a band and things like this. So
Mhm.
he's, uh, he's obviously in the game kind of thing. But there's so many moments in this song where you're like what are you doing, frankly?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that's a really good place to be, I think, with music creation. So many times when we're making music in the band and somebody's doing something which you shouldn't really do, those are really the most exciting moments, and especially when they're good. There's one that'll come later with Scouting for Girls where it's the opposite, but um his that chorus and the way it just keeps getting higher is so absurd, but it's such a brilliant melody actually, and
Mhm.
all of those BVs and stuff. And you kind of wonder if he knows, does he know how good this is? That that's the same with all this type of stuff. Is like, you've done something here that you're not really meant to do. Do you know you're not meant to do it? Do
Mhm.
you know why this is good? And that's like kind of really fascinating. Once someone's really much more established, you lose those things never occur
Mhm.
basically, and you lose
Right.
that fascination, and you're all kind of like, oh, they've really crafted this well, and that really leads into that well, and the way this modulates is really perfectly done. You never get the like batshit stuff,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
so exciting. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. No, because I had to sort of like experience listening to it because I was like, oh, this is really terrible. And then you listen a bit more, and you're like, oh, well, it's actually quite cool. I mean, there's a genuine drama to it. I think is the
yeah,
difference as well
there
between
is.
that and other types of songs like this. It's maybe unfair to just lump it with shit songs generally, but it's that
Yeah,
vibe. And I think when you watch it
and
with
then
the
the
video,
video is
yeah.
video exactly is a whole extra layer of like decisions that are being
Yes.
made.
Yeah. And I think it's when you're watching the video the video is, I think, more straightforwardly crap. And watching the video, it is a bit more questionable. He's just like, I'm not really sure if he's telling the story he wants to be telling. I'm not sure if he has an idea what the story is, other than he knows he's telling a story. And I guess, again, to me, it just felt, if anything, if I could really fault it for one thing, it's just that it's just way too long. I think it's like 5 minutes long.
It is too long.
Other than that,
that's a classic rookie mistake. That's the thing.
Yes,
a cut down version of the song would be absolutely dynamite. With loads of better bits in. But that chorus just comes out of nowhere.
It felt kind of like really. I mean, it was never like a type of music I listened to, but it's got that kind of like early noughties, like new metal-y kind of hip hop, that kind of family of like music. So it was really like surprising to me. But you say he's got quite a lot of other stuff out there. Or he has at least
nothing even close to this. They're sort of acoustic things or covers, or very, very much more, low key performances. There's no more music videos. Interestingly, I think maybe I tweeted about this guy, or it may just be a coincidence, but at some point in the last 5-10 years, he's actually covered one of my band's songs.
Oh, really?
Which, when we found out about that, we were just like, what the fuck? It was Kimusabi, which is not easy to sing. And I was like, okay, come on then, mate, let's see this. And absolutely, sung it, piece of piss, sitting down, just like this. He just sang it brilliantly.
Oh, really?
He's actually a really good singer. Yeah. He nailed it. He nailed it.
I mean, you can tell from this song, like he can sing, but I guess I still wasn't necessarily expecting to just nail that so easily. But power to him, then. That's really good.
Yeah.
Oh, that's remarkable. I kind of regret not having heard this over the last 10 years, because this is like you. I'm the kind of person to be like, guys, right, look, come on.
Exactly.
You're gonna love
this. Is the one that's really survived all, because there's been a lot of these kind of things over the years, and this is like one of the big heavy hitters. Obviously, Danny Goodbye is more well known, but that's another one that you kind of have to see.
Goodbye to everybody. Goodbye to the people who hated on me. Goodbye to the people who loved me. Goodbye to the people who trusted me. Goodbye to everybody. Now I need some changes in my life. Now I need to move on in life.
Maybe we should talk a bit about that one now, because that one, again, I hadn't heard that, which again is weird because I've heard so much crap music. unlike Dean's song, I really didn't get the idea that this guy has any idea whatsoever what is going on. No. I mean, like, I think everything that could be bad is bad. I mean, like, just his singing is terrible, but then it's auto-tuned. But it's auto-tuned really, really badly.
I think it's just chromatically auto-tuned, so whatever note his voice was wavering near, it's just gone to that, and it's just doesn't obey any harmonic rules whatsoever. But neither does the music, so it doesn't actually matter. But then, like, rhythmically, I mean, the tone of the microphone recording is exceptional. It's like he's done it on his, speaker phone of his, on his headphones, the speaker on there or something like that, while listening to the track. But there's no indication that he knows even that there is such a thing as like beat one in a bar or anything like that. It's just anywhere. He's got his words, and he's got the knowledge that you speak rhythmically over music, but he doesn't actually seem to grasp what rhythm is, even the fundamental. Even like Bar Black Sheep, it isn't as coherent as that, which is kind of amazing to listen to, because you can't actually do that once you know anything about music. You can't get a performance as bad as that. And it's sort of quite fascinating to listen to and think, like, what does he think is happening right now? He's acting as though this is the chorus again, but the music isn't at the chorus. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's ridiculous.
Absolutely, I totally agree. It's interesting what you say. Interesting what you say about if you know anything about music, you just can't make those mistakes. Because I teach like bass and guitar and banjo because I'm just that cool.
Oh, nice.
And after like lesson one, you sit someone down and you just like, can you just clap for me 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you get them to clap like
Yeah.
1 and 2 and that kind of thing. And then from
Yeah.
then on out, yeah, people's timing clearly isn't going to be perfect straight away, but they have a general idea of how to just play something to a beat. And it really just takes like 2 minutes at the end of lesson 1 to just clap a rhythm out, and they get the general principle. But this guy is he's not even at that level yet. There are some phrases. I can't remember them off the top of my head now, but I think there's a couple specifically towards the end of the song where it's just you kind of I guess it's to do with the flow. If we're going to treat him seriously as a hip hop artist, the flow is just completely off, and he'll just elongate these phrases that would just clearly work better shorter, and then he'll make.
I'm not going to let this bullshit happen again.
Yes,
it's one of the best bits.
Yeah. And again, because there's auto-tune at the end of the phrase, which is like, as you say, presumably like chromatically auto-tuned, it's just really amazing. And his I didn't actually look him up. I assume he's Scottish. He has like a Scottish accent, I think.
Maybe the sort of weakness of his tone of singing is also another sort of really hilarious, and the sort of the fact that he is singing about goodbye, and I think he means like fuck off, but it comes across like I'm going to top myself because of his delivery, and because the video is just him sitting alone, or he's at the golf course doing that weird little dance.
Goodbye to the people who hated on me. Goodbye to the people who loved me. Goodbye to the people who trusted me. Goodbye, goodbye to everybody. Goodbye to the people who hated on me.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, with Danny, what happened was someone else like me, basically, who was enjoying it, got in touch with him and like made it into a thing, and they got him to this person, whoever it was, I can't remember exactly, they did their own version of Goodbye, and they got Danny to sing on it, and it all just became a bit sort of memeified. And I guess Danny probably worked out that it wasn't entirely serious, and he has actually released quite a lot of music since, Danny has, that's slowly getting better, but it's it's kind of like the joke is out. It's like a Tommy Wiseau thing where it's like, he's made another film, it's a bit shit. Does he know it's shit? I think he does. You know, it's kind of a joke now. Although Danny is quite serious about his music, as far as I can tell. But his whole following is obviously people who are there to kind of laugh, which is not what I want from my outsider artists. I want it to just be like a diamond in the rough that you just find, and it can't be explained, and you can never get in touch with them. You know, and kind of stuff. You shouldn't ever like fuck with the formula, I don't think.
That is it's like the Shags. They're the kind of original. They're the OG kind of founding artists of this genre. But I was gonna say, I did look at Danny's YouTube briefly, and there were just tons of comments of like, Danny, you're my hero, love you, like fuck the haters. And then you're like, oh come on guys, like this. I mean, maybe like some percentage of these people are serious. I don't think it's very likely. I think most people are just kind of, it's a bit of a wind up, and maybe some people are not trying to be mean, but it always comes across as mean as well. And it's a bit like,
it's like why you're there. But although I'm there, I'm here with you talking about him now for let's be honest, the same reason, which is that I think that he's done something so ridiculously shit that I want more people to watch it. Basically, let's be honest.
That's true, but I think it's different. I think it's different, like saying it to, like leaving comments saying like, "Oh, you are brilliant." I think that's when it becomes a bit more of a piss take. I did get the impression. I was like, I'm not sure how aware he is, because I did see that he's still making music, and he still gets like quite a few views. He's got like,
it's hard to tell, isn't it? With him, I do go back there every couple of years, and I'm just like, Danny, are you what are you doing now? Is this still working out? Are you still doing this? And he does seem to be. I haven't looked in a little while. But yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, power to him. But I honestly did, like you said, I did assume the song was about suicide. I was like, this is really quite grim. And the way he sings it, as you say, it's just really just dejected and sad. But then the more you listen to it, you're like, it doesn't seem to match up to my initial assumption about what it's about.
No, it's I don't know, like, I don't know if he knows what it's about exactly, except he's got this chorus about goodbye. And it was just a perfect storm of the right video, the right production and the right performance, and everything just came together, which is why it's such a classic.
Yeah. No, I do totally agree. It is a classic. Anyway, let's move on to a very different type of ugly, because I chose a song. I chose a song by a band I really like called Van de Graaf Generator. Which song was it again? I think it was called The Habit of the Broken Heart.
You only wanted to find someone or something more than pleasure.
It's actually called something like the Goken Bart. It's got like a strange spelling.
Oh, does it? Oh,
It's not unless that's what you typed to me, and I just
there's
assumed
a good chance I'm just incredibly clumsy at typing to you.
Oh no, you didn't. No, I think you did. Sorry, I thought it was actually called that, the Boken Gart, and I was like, oh, these guys are so weird.
I mean,
and then
they
I did
are...
listen to it, and I was like, oh, I guess that's what it's called. No, okay, my bad, my bad.
No, it's fine. That's entirely my fault. But did you listen to the tune?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
So this, I mean, I'll just say this is a very different type of ugly, just from the get go. I talk about this band occasionally on my channel.
You talk about it a lot. Why are you? Where did you get this from? Why are you such a progger?
I love how that's like how you asked that question. It's like, wow, why would you do this?
Yeah, it's weird.
But just it is kind of weird, I guess. I just remember when I was a teenager, I got a load of siblings. One of my older brothers just went to the local library and got a CD that was like a
What? The library?
I know, exactly. A 3 CD prog compilation. I was like, progressive rock, what the hell is this? And we would take the CDs home. We got CDs all the time from the library and just obviously copied them onto our home computer.
Oh, yeah.
And then we just listen. Yeah, and this, I was a total, like, and it's probably maybe less so these days, but total Lord of the Rings nerd. So
right,
progressive rock a teenage boy. It's just Lord of the Rings in music. And I just immediately fell in love with like progressive rock, not like all of it. More, I guess. It's really just like the 70s kind of wacky stuff, where there's that kind of the intersection of that.
Just before punk came and said no more.
exactly. Which, but I mean, like, it's one of those things. I love prog, but I always say to people as well. People are always like, "Oh, punk killed prog," and I'm like, "No, prog killed prog because prog just was stupid, and it was always going to burn brightly and short." I mean, some people would say it didn't even burn very brightly, but I just love it. It's that kind of intersection of hippie, drugged out culture. Yeah, with like a bunch of like jazz and classical musicians who decided they were going to play rock. And is it all a little bit wanky and stupid? Absolutely, yeah. But I really
the best of it knows that it is. The best of it is aware. When it's unaware, that's when it's bad.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's the same with all.
Yeah. So I feel like Emerson, Lake and Palmer, I think are pretty crap. I always thought they were like, maybe they have a few moments, but they're really just a little bit too serious. I like Rush when they went pop. But I think
I don't know a thing about Rush. I've met several people this year who really like Rush. Yeah. So I think it's about time I found out.
Give them a go. I mean, I really don't like their prog stuff. I mean, it's all like Ayn Randian, like objectivist. Ooh. Not all of it. I mean, some of it's just sci-fi stuff. But I find it. I think obviously, therefore, I think the lyrics are a bit stupid. But I just don't like the music. But when they turn into like a pop band, I actually quite like that. They're still like a proggy pop band, but I like that it's like more towards like 80s.
What about when Yes went pop?
I do like some of it, but I don't think it's the peak of their stuff. For me, when they're just like, writing 23-minute long epics based on war and peace, I just like switching it on and just listening through it. But yeah, so Van de Graaf Generator are, I think they are one of the more self-aware ones, but they're also sometimes one of the more hated ones. They have like a very infamous song called Plague of Lighthouse Keepers, which is a 23-minute long song about a lighthouse keeper.
I know that.
It's about a lighthouse keeper who like slowly like loses his mind because of the guilt he feels over the lives he couldn't say. It's completely unhinged, and it's really cacophonous at points and hideous. And it's 23 minutes. I mean, obviously that's quite long for like a rock band, I guess. I really love that track, and it was one of the first tracks I heard by them on that compilation thing I mentioned before.
Wow.
I immediately fell in love with it because it just felt, I guess it just felt like it's kind of like a dark Lovecraftian kind of horror, but in music form, and it's very
Mhm.
like Lovecraft, like campy and a bit ridiculous.
Yeah,
But I really like them, and I put them on here. It's a very different type of ugliness, but they were kind of unrelentingly ugly. There's almost like no or very very few moments of like beauty or niceness in the music, and I think even
yeah,
just the singer is Peter Hamill, he's called. His voice is very he's quite comfortable just with ugly tones, ugly words. He doesn't
yeah,
necessarily
yeah,
think hitting the right pitch is always the most important thing, and I don't say that in a kind of insulting way. It's just there's a
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
there's a
It's like
drama
Alice
of
Cooper. But
yeah.
he never actually his vocals are actually kind of terrible, but it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. So what did you think of this song and the
I
general kind
liked
of
it.
feel?
I liked it. I didn't think it was hugely ugly. I wouldn't say it was hugely ugly. I think it was um, more. It was much more structured than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was just going to be a total sort of splurge, but it
Right. Yeah.
felt quite songy, and
Hmm.
it's under 5 minutes, so it's not like
Yes.
a
Yeah.
crazy epic, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Yes.
But yeah, I
So
liked it. I liked it.
I did choose it specifically because I didn't want to subject you to a 23-minute long Van de Graaff generator song. I
You
thought it would
should
be
have. You
slightly
should have.
maybe I should have, because this is like their late 70s stuff where clearly they'd listened to a bit of new wave and they thought, well,
Right.
we'll go in that direction a bit, or we'll make short songs. So yeah,
Yeah.
maybe it's not as obviously ugly as some things, but it's always got that kind of gothic, dark.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
a lot of it comes down to Peter Hamill's vocals. It's just like he's not a pretty singer. It's just like he'll
Yeah.
snarl and kind of scream and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it's an interesting kind of contrast to the songs you chose, because it feels like it is ugliness, and I feel like it's always with them. It's always ugliness used quite well. Actually, it's always like quite
Yeah.
purposeful. Um, and so I thought this is kind of an interesting connection with everything, because I think the way you guys use ugliness is like really purposeful, instrumental, and like actually really quite effective. I mean, even from you just see an album cover and it's just like, oh, there's something kind of like grotesque about it.
Yeah.
And the way it's used through like with catchy pop beats and things like that, I think it's really interesting. I think it's something that's not often enough seen, I guess, in popular music.
I think there's a big vein of destructive, like a destructive nature with my band. Definitely, Alex loves to try to disrupt with his guitar playing, or just make the most sort of the most inexcusable sounds you can. Something
Right.
you have to hear, you have to listen, because it's not unpleasant, but it's arresting.
Yes, yeah,
And
yeah.
that's also in the production as well. I think there's always the feeling that you can't just have something straightforward. Not that you're trying to deliberately overcomplicate, because that's a really easy trap to fall into, but just that there's a sort of destructive nature. Like we very rarely will end on the tonic chord. There's always like a feeling that the song hasn't properly ended, or things getting cut off too early, or sort of almost like cock blocking our own songs sometimes. Like No Reptiles, which is arguably our most popular song, it doesn't drop. Like there's just a huge fucking build up right up to the end, and everyone's going, "Oh my god!" And then it just ends. And it just ends with this little thing going, tss, 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 which is like this most anticlimactic thing you've ever heard. But I think that's why we like it so much, and hopefully that's why other people like it so much. But I think a lot of it comes from the bands we listen to. Certainly, anything that was like grungy, from Nirvana to even like Graham Coxon, was always about just sort of trying to ruin everything with what you're doing. At least I think that's what Kurt was doing. I don't know. It's hard to say sometimes. But certainly Graham Coxon would ruin things, and Johnny Greenwood would always be there to sort of really fuck things up. Like obviously the famous thing he does in Creep is like it's almost like metal, I suppose, but it is still just kind of like is this broken? What's happening to the song? So that's kind of, I think that's where it comes from. It's a kind of ugliness that's like it's like you shouldn't ever feel too safe, I think, in music. As soon as you feel too safe, you just get bored, or at least I do. You've always got to be kind of like, this feels like a new discovery of some kind. Although, if we were going to stick to what I'm saying now, we would actually do things like Danny, but we can't. And that's the difference. It's like how many decisions can we make that you cannot predict without doing a Danny, because then the whole structure falls apart and it's true chaos, which is actually never very pleasant.
No, it's a kind of interesting dynamic, and I mean, making that link back to Van der Graaf generator, for a lot of people, they just, I mean, again, this is a kind of like maybe pop, more radio friendly song by them, but for so many people, even for huge prog nerds like me, a lot of people are just like, nah, this is just too far. They're too kind of unhinged and a little bit too ridiculous. It's a different dynamic to yours, because it's less about that kind of cock blocking and more just maybe, I don't know, like overly dramatic sometimes with them, and maybe
there was a few tracks that played after the one I listened to that you sent me of theirs, and it was like The Hobbit, just him just talking about some kind of mythical creature and what it was doing now and what it looked like and stuff. It was just totally stupid.
And it's like, well, it was the 70s, wasn't it? It was a different time. Okay, cool. And let's move on to my next song choice, which again is a very different type of ugly. So this is by the artist, Jacob Collier, and it's his cover of the Flinstones.
Let's ride with the family down the street through the car to see your friends.
But were you already aware of Jacob Collier?
I was, yeah. He's been in the little WhatsApp group that I have, funnily enough, with Jack, who I mentioned earlier from Foals, because this is something that we have already put in our let's share this kind of group. Actually the Flintstones track. It was another one of his, because it's the wrong side of ugly for me. I don't know. What do you think? I want to hear what you think first.
So of this track specifically?
Well, his whole gambit and his whole vibe.
Yeah. So I was actually talking to a friend. I was at band practice last night, and I was talking to one of my friends about it. She'd never actually heard of Jacob Collier, and I was like, well, the only way to describe it is he's kind of like the cliche is like he's the Mozart of this generation or whatever. Like those kind of he's a level of musicianship where I'm just like, okay, well, I may as well just put the guitar down and just do something else with my life. But actually, when I listen to his music,
something good.
Well, I listen. I'm
on
not
piano.
I'm not keen on his. I'm not keen at all. Pretty much full stop. Maybe a few little moments of his songwriting. I like some of his. He's covered a lot of stuff, and I do like some of that. What was it? Covered a Lionel Richie song. All Night Long. I thought that was. I liked it. Jazz is not really my thing, so I find it hard to comment on. But so the Flintstones cover in particular, I think it's completely hideous. I also think it's just not made for me. You hear it and you're like, this is for like jazz fusion kind of neo soul nuts who are really into this kind of like reharmonization stuff.
I wonder who it's for. My mum has sent me a couple of his videos before. And I think it's certainly a very sort of social media-y sort of presence, where it's more like a feat than actually music that you want to listen to, that anyone would want to listen to.
Well,
it's more like a trick or a
To me, that's quite often how it ends up feeling. He definitely has like a huge, and I think a genuine following of people who do find his music very emotionally effective, and I think that's great. For me, though, I think someone explained it to me once. It's like there's a difference between being a good musician and being a good artist. And I was like, right, yeah, I think that's kind of how I see it personally. Like I'm absolutely in awe of his musicianship. Obviously, I'm totally jealous. I will admit that. But then I listen to the music he makes. I'm like, well, it's really interesting that I think he's a phenomenal musician, but I'm just not personally interested in that at all. I don't know. It's very hard to analyze exactly why something leaves you emotionally cold, but it just misses me.
It does me definitely as well. I mean, it's the Flintstones at the end of the day, even if it was, performed by Tom York. I don't know. Actually, what would that be like?
I mean, that sounds quite cool.
I know. Anyway, this sort of dichotomy between being a good artist and being a good musician or whatever is a big one for us, definitely, because and in just in my appreciation of music, because we're all trained musicians.
Mm-hmm.
We all learned classical instruments, certainly, and Mike went to Boston to play the drums, and we've been in bands since a million years, and Alex is incredibly good at the guitar. But everything I've ever done with the band is to try and unlearn everything I learned about theory and stuff like that. Since I came out of uni and started this band, I've kind of been trying to remove that stuff from my memory and from my knowledge to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
And it's what we're always trying to do with our music. Is actually, Alex will have some kind of, depends what he's into at the time, but sometimes it'll be like he's into a certain type of modulation or harmony or whatever scale.
Mm-hmm.
And everything we try and do is to try and, if we're going to use that, is to try and hide it, or to try and make it so that your average listener won't actually be able to tell that you're using this weird scale.
Mm-hmm.
And it's obviously the effect that the scale is having on the melody is important, and on the harmony, it gives you a certain feeling that you won't get any other way. But the idea that people will kind of go, what great harmony theory they've been utilizing there is kind of anathema to me. I don't want that to happen, we all really dislike showy players. I think that's a huge misunderstanding, is that when you're into more complex music, or you have musical education, is that you'll necessarily appreciate somebody who can play all the notes, or sing all the notes. I like a good singer, but I'm talking about Freddie Mercury. I'm not talking about somebody who can do all the bollocks. He can do 2 or 3 things very, very well, but there's 70% of him is actually not even what's coming out of his mouth. It's the way he looks, it's the way he moves, it's the words, it's what his band is doing, it's his life story. It's a million things that you actually appreciate at the end. Just some anonymous singer who's done all the work and put in 20 years behind the microphone, I don't really care. I'd rather a million times over somebody who I just think is genuine and has a modicum of talent and a modicum of education when it comes to music. But this thing like Jacob Collier, where it's like, oh my God, he could sing anything and he can do it 7 times over without even listening to the previous track. That's horrible to me. It's like I don't even know. It's like AI or something. It's like something that's run away with itself and left what it was designed for behind. It's like AI that's kind of gone nuts, and it's not doing the right thing anymore. It's like it's fucking the wall or something. It's not. It's a horrible endpoint when you start with something so beautiful and universal as knocking 2 pieces of stone together 200,000 years ago, and then suddenly you've got that. And it's not.
I do broadly. It's really interesting, some of the things you said. It just reminds me, because some of the spaces I'm in, like online or whatever, like everyone's talking about music theory, and I've learned lots of it, obviously, and I do find it interesting. But when I start to get really turned off from it is when you're just talking to anyone, or it's like a general conversation. People are like, well, what's your favorite chord progression? I'm just like, what the hell are you talking about? That's the weirdest thing I've ever. Like, I don't really care. It's like,
what's your favorite color?
Yeah,
What's on about? God. I'm not 5.
exactly. I've always thought that's such an odd. I mean, I did English at uni, and there are some people who are very much like, oh, I love words for the sake of words, and I was just never really like that. To me, it's like a tool to express yourself, and if people are into that, that's fine. But for me, it's just really not what kind of turns me on. No. Really, it's like, well, what we actually getting at here? It's like totally,
Some people think that I do that with lyrics quite often. They'd be like, oh, so he's into words for the sake of words. I'm absolutely not. I hate that. Like, I always will mean something with what I'm saying. The idea of just singing a word for its sound is definitely not what I'm into at all.
Yeah. Yeah, no, much more into singing about fatbergs and fat children
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
push
Yeah, so we've got to
chairs.
get some kind of fat stuff on every record, apparently.
Yeah, yeah. It was the No Reptile song that I first heard because my partner was into you guys before I was, and I think we were on like driving somewhere on like a little road trip,
Mm.
and I heard that, and yeah, there's obviously the cock block element to it, as you said before,
Yeah,
but there's just some of the like again, it's about the ugliness and the kind of arresting
yeah,
part of the imagery of some of that, and it's
yeah.
really
There's that.
interesting that. Sorry, I was just that bit about the fat child in a wheelchair because you hear it, it's like on the one hand,
It's
it's
a
like,
push chair. It's a push chair, not a
push
wheelchair.
chair. Oh
That's
my
the
god!
difference.
Totally. Yeah, that's much worse. But I was like, at first it's like, well, that's a really ugly image, and then I'm like, well, it's actually kind of reassuring. And then I'm like, well, no, wait, is it patronizing? And I was like, I don't really know how to feel about this. And there's something
Yeah,
like deeply uncomfortable in an interesting way about that. And I
yeah.
was just like, this is. And then you add that with the cock blocker ending, and it's like this is yeah that's the yeah I'm sure you hear this all the time. It's the first time I heard that was the first time I heard anything by you, and I was like, oh, this is really interesting. And I guess bring it back to Jacob Collier. Unfortunately, and I really try not to like shit on people who I don't necessarily like, unless it's Desiree and the song Life, in which case I'm well into
Yeah,
it.
I mean, that was one of my favorite episodes.
Thank you. Um, but yeah, it just emotionally, unfortunately, it just leaves me completely cold. And if the way I
Oh yeah.
sometimes describe to people is that if I didn't know about music and I was just an average listener,
Mhm.
I would just hear kind of like, as you say, social media friendly kind of
It's almost like
glib
Britain's Got
pop.
Talent or something, where it's just like it's really cool that you can swallow that sword that's on fire while you're on a unicycle on a you know on a cat, but why? And I don't really want to see you swallowing that sword, etc., etc. It feels like that to me. There's a what was I going to say? Yeah, no, you were just saying you're not sure you get the emotional response from it, but also what kind of emotion is he going for when he covers the Flintstones with like 16 part? Like what why is he doing it? What's it for? And I get like the only thing it's for really is to show off that he can do it. It's not like anyone's actually going to enjoy that music, is it really? Like he knows that it's not for enjoyment.
Yeah. I mean,
It's a performance, and it's a very impressive thing. Absolutely, credit where credit's due. It's very impressive that he's done this thing, but he's made it just because he can, and he wants people to see that he can, and that feels to me like kind of the worst reason to make something, really, unless you've been in jail for 80 years or you've been repressed in some way or something. Just to say I can do this thing, check it out. It's just kind of like, ugh.
yes,
I want to
right,
know
right, yeah.
about your emotion, or
Mhm.
I want you to communicate something to me that isn't just check out how fucking well I can sing.
Mhm.
Do you remember the Flintstones? Which is really all that's being communicated to me.
Right. Yeah. I do agree. I do agree. I think a lot of it is down to like that cultural difference. Like to me, I guess music is about like I guess I would call it generally songwriting, but it's more about like it's that finished product. Like that's kind of what I'm interested in. Like, well, what is it actually kind of getting at, kind of emotionally or artistically? But I think it's just a totally different world for these kind of heavy, really super like jazz fusion-y kind of people, where that showing off element isn't, to me, I find it a bit gross. But yeah, I guess it's just a cultural difference to me. I'm trying to be nice here, basically, because I don't just
I
want to
think it could be. It could be. I think there's a lot of stuff about all media now is kind of, there's a huge element of it which is just self-promotion and showing off, which obviously I do and I have to do. I'm wearing my own band's t-shirt, for God's sake.
Oh my goodness.
And most of my job is promoting myself and my performances and abilities. Let's not pretend it isn't. But there's still huge areas of it that I feel massively uncomfortable about, just how readily the generation younger than me will expose themselves and will try to sell their lives in one way or another, generate drama or perform every day for the camera is still alarming to me. And I don't know if that will ever really change, because I think that I'm just not the right age for that. It doesn't feel right to me. And it doesn't just not feel right. It actually feels quite wrong sometimes. We had this somewhat quaint idea of selling out, when I was young, and it isn't even you don't even hear that term anymore. Like you may need to even explain that to someone now, what that means,
That's a good point. Yeah.
why that mattered once upon a time, and maybe it doesn't matter. And there's certainly loads of stuff I do now that I thought I would never do because it would be selling out.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not you care about that, it's a huge change, and it doesn't actually occur anymore. So when you get something like a performer who is just basically showing off,
Mm-hmm.
it's cool. That's fine. That's what everyone does. It's like, you should flaunt it if you've got it, kind of thing. But it doesn't really vibe with me.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, me with my small YouTube channel, I'm in a similar position where I'm like, when I started off, I was like, well, this is what I'll do, and I'll only do it this way. I have a very specific image, and this is selling out. And then you just realize you just have to do it because you're just being stupid if you don't, because no one's going to watch it or whatever. But there's still some things where I'm just like, so it kind of feeds into that, what you're saying, like that social media kind of presentation of younger people. I'm really adamant, even though I know it would do my channel really well, I'm not going to turn it into like a reaction channel and just like put on some music and be like, oh yeah, this is really great.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to insult the people who do that, but I just know for me personally, if I'm going to do it, I'd have to listen to something fresh. I'm not going to listen to something I've listened to a million times and react to that. That's completely fake.
Yeah, that's insane.
If I don't like it, I'm going to say I don't like it. And I don't like quite a lot of music. And that's that would probably do worse for my channel as well. So, I mean, it's still like a commercial.
Yeah, you'll get all the all the Swifties on your back and all the Katy Perry people come after you, and you don't want to fuck with those big fan base.
So to do it productively, I'd basically just have to listen to everything and be like, oh yeah, it's really good. But it's highly unlikely I would actually feel that way. And that to me, so I feel like there has to be a line there for me. But it isn't. There is kind of like no answer to like what is selling out and like what is just showing off. But
no, for me, it's very subjective aside from anything else.
But for me,
when we were growing up, all our heroes, Wayne's World or Kurt Cobain, everyone would talk about selling out. This is like the worst thing you can do, and they wouldn't recognize today's bands and musicians as authentic in any way, which is it's just something that's changed,
Yeah, it is. And we're both in our 30s, we're just boomers now. Like our opinions could be disregarded by the youth. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess I did put Jacob Collier in here because I did think this song in particular, there are moments where I'm like, oh, there's a bit of a groove to it, and it'll last for like a bar or half a bar, and then it'll just degenerate again.
It doesn't even need that shit.
Yeah,
it degenerates. Exactly. That's exactly what it does.
This is absolutely wild. I mean, I'm glad I listened to it once, but I'm not sure if
I had to do it in stages. The first 40 seconds, the first time, and I was like, oh. Yeah.
Well, on the subject of having to potentially listen to an annoying song in stages, our last choice is Scouting for Girls. A song was suggested by you. I didn't actually. What was the song again? I Wish I Was James Bond.
I Wish I Was James Bond. Yeah, I think it's called that.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the type. That's the chorus.
That's the gist of it, right?
Yeah.
So I wish I was James Bond, just for the day, kissing.
Obviously, I knew the band. I didn't know this song though. Do you want to just talk about it briefly for a second?
Well, this is a song that has been in rotation for us. Me and a few friends for a long time. It came at the end of a string of their hits. I think I'm not going to remember exactly how it appeared, but it's very interesting because I have a theory about how it was written, and I have no idea if it's true. But if you listen to a few Scouting for Girls songs, particularly the big ones like She's So Lovely, or that's the only one I can think of, but there's a very, very rudimentary songwriting ability there where they will play very, very similar stuff in every song. Sometimes it's the same chords, maybe in a different key, and sometimes the same key. So it does what it does. It's not pretending to be anything it's not. People do like it. However, they're always in a major key. They're very chirpy and inoffensive songs. And when it comes to this one, I think what happened was the pianist probably played a minor chord in his usual pattern, or it was a mistake, or something happened, and they sort of. I'm just imagining this. in the rehearsal room or just in his head, he was like, "Oh, that sounds a bit like James Bond," because that's it. It sort of does if you don't really know anything about music. And so they wrote the song around this chord sequence, but so you get this minor chord to begin with, but his musical brain is very used to, I think, this is all speculation.
No, this is all entirely true. I'm sure it's 100% true.
He's very used to writing melody in a major key. So you get this phrase at the end of the. I could maybe even play it to you. So he's let's say it's in. So A minor there. So if he gets to the end of the phrase and he's going like, "I wanna be like Roger Moore." No, Roger Moore. Can't even do it.
Yeah.
He's singing this over the top of this fucking minor third, which you cannot do. That is totally illegal in music. That's like, well, I mean, it's legal in as much as you might do it if you were playing very, very poncy, proggy music. It'll be an absolute no for pop music and certainly basic pop music like this. And they're just completely oblivious. So they've written this whole song around the idea of James Bond because they think the chord sequence sounds a bit like James Bond because it has a minor chord in it. And it just feels to me like obviously it sounds awful, which is why I find it so funny. But it's more than that. It's so revealing about the fact that they don't know, and obviously they don't care, and obviously it doesn't actually matter. But to my musical ears, it's like it's like drawing a smiley face not on the Mona Lisa, because I'm not saying the song is like the Mona Lisa. I can't think of a good analogy for it, but it's something you cannot fucking do, and they are blissfully unaware of it, and so is anyone who ever heard it. Most people who ever heard it. So in many ways, it's my problem. Right. And they're doing something. They're following rules. The rules of music are bullshit anyway. Equal temperament isn't a thing, and all the rest of it. So it's actually my problem.
Right.
With this song, and it's very interesting to me to listen to it and to think about it, and it's really funny.
Yes, yeah.
So that's why it's in there.
Yeah. I think it's kind of I guess the analogy is almost like it's like those chili pepper gummy bears, which are just, to me, they're there as a meme, right? They're just a stupid meme, but they're actually just crap food. It's like, well, you have just broken the rule. That's kind of what they've done a bit. I weirdly. Obviously, it's just a really weird moment in the song, but it's not even the ugliest thing about the song to me. I just find it like utterly juvenile, and I don't know, it's kind of maybe slightly mean, but I just listen to the sentiment throughout the song. It's like, oh, I wish I was. There's even a line like, I wish I was James Bond so I could kiss all the girls, and I'm just like, this is pathetic. I really dislike you guys intensely, and maybe I'm I don't know how self-aware they are. I never got the impression they were a self-aware band. I just find it really so juvenile. Yeah,
it's really hard to say with them. There's also there's another glaringly bad thing in it where the backing vocal in the chorus, so it goes, "I wish I was James Bond," and then you get this guy going, "Just for the day."
Yeah.
Sort of
just for the day.
A certain type of delivery that he has that's very unique, let's say.
Yes.
Generally, it's such an anomaly for me because all the other songs, literally, not that I've listened to them, are in a major key. They all follow the rules, and it works. And it's like they've stepped one step out and gone, "Ooh, that sounds like James Bond," a minor chord, and failed to take advantage of that minor chord. They just bulldozed over the top of it with a major melody, and it's a major third, and it's on the first beat of the fucking bar every time. So it's it cannot be, it should not be, and yet it's right there.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. But on the point of that backing vocal, it's like the spoken word intro at the start is really similarly obnoxious.
Mixing business with girls and thrills.
I feel like it was the era where people were it was common to put on like fake upper class accents to kind of like give the impression that you're being eccentric and a bit weird. And it's like I can't remember what they say at the start, but it's just aged really quite
It's
poorly.
like 007.
That's it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, again, they probably think they're being like cutesy and whimsical, and I'm sure people, if
I mean,
anyone's
they
watching
are.
it, and,
They are. And it's all
but-
fine, but it isn't in this crucial in several crucial ways.
in several crucial ways. Yeah. I guess when someone's being cutesy and whimsical, it's like how much leeway are you willing to grant them? And for like, I don't know.
How much
anyone who
leeway can we grant Scouting for Girls on a
Exactly.
2006 single that no one remembers?
I like the Beatles. Everyone who listens to my channel knows I love the Beach Boys, and they can be like cutesy and stupid and saccharine.
Macca has done some awful crimes against music.
Yeah, but
on some of the what are considered the best albums of all time.
Yeah. But sometimes, and again, like Mac is a great example actually, because sometimes I think, you know what, it works. I'm happy with that.
Yep.
And other times I'm just like, no, you've lost me, Paul. You've completely lost me with this track. Never do that again.
Absolutely. Like Honey Pie, Wild Honey Pie, or something like that.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Oh, do you like that?
Yeah, I suppose. But the rest, like nearly all the time, I'm just like, for fuck's sake, and you know that he's written that 20 minutes before they press record, or even 10. And he's just done this fucking bollocks in like 1967, and it's still being listened to, and it's just like, this is this is shit,
Yeah. I find
even Over the D, Over the Da, which is like a household name of a song, is kind of rubbish.
So that's not amongst my least favorite. I really detest Rocky Raccoon. I find it upsettingly bad.
I will say, as a child, I liked it, and it is. There is always an element to the Beatles, which is some of it's for children.
Yes, that's
true. Things
that's
like
true.
Bungalow Bill. It's clearly
Yeah.
for children, as dark as that actually gets. But Rocky Raccoon, I think when Macca goes American, that's when you've got to draw the line. He does that increasingly through his career. And if you actually see him live now, he's just singing in a sort of horrible American accent with all the Judy, kind of stuff that everyone knows and everyone takes the piss out of. But that's sort of this vein in him that we've never managed to extract. That's sort of grown, and it's like, Macca, can you just write like Live and Let Die and not Rocky Raccoon, please?
Yeah.
Although Live and Let Die is not even a great example, because that's quite pompous, but it is good. I do love it.
It is. I still like that. But because with Rocky Raccoon, actually, you are right. It's the first bit of the track when he's doing this kind of like spoken word American thing. The first time I heard that, I remember. I just did not like it. The song gets better, and there's like some nice honky tonk and whatever. That's fine. But it was that first bit. But again, the point really is that at least with Macca, we can kind of give him that leeway and be like, look, you know what? It's Paul McCartney. It's Paul McCartney. Scouting for Girls, if they're trying to be a bit cutesy and whimsical, I'm not really willing to grant them that leeway, especially if they're going to do
just the worst bits of Macca and remove all the songwriting ability. You're getting. You're not. I was going to say you're getting close to Scouting for Girls, but you're not. You're still a million miles off, basically.
No, that's true. That is true. But yeah, I mean, actually, I thought this was the worst song because nothing else really annoyed me. But Scouting for Girls, I mean, She's So Lovely was the only one I really kind of remember. Yeah. But I always just thought it was just.
There's a few, and they all. It's quite crazy when you listen to them. They all literally have the duh.
Yes.
Duh.
Yeah.
Like the way he plays it, and it's the same chords, and it's like, how many times can you pull this trick, you motherfuckers? But then, crucially, which is what we're talking about. They do try and change up, and it's a fucking disaster, which is hilarious to me.
Was this song like a hit? Probably was it.
It was a single. I think it probably was on the radio. In fact, it definitely was, because I know it from somewhere, and I didn't go looking. I'll tell you that
much. Fair. So we've covered a wide range of interesting, ugly stuff today. And I find ugliness such an interesting topic actually, because at the end of the day, I think without any level of ugliness, because even like if we're talking just like playing guitar, like the Jimi Hendrix chord, right? That's an ugly chord. Without any of that, you're just left with like overly saccharine Scouting for Girls in their usual mode kind of stuff. You need that kind of bit of ugliness, but it's like it is interesting, kind of exploring the kind of boundaries between it and where the limits are.
It is. It's actually where my where my ears kind of prick up the most in what I listen to is exploring that edge, and that's only increased as time has gone on. Now I find like so-called normal music usually quite boring unless there's something going on that's interesting. but I will happily watch outsider art, you know, or new bands, or basically not very good bands, or people who don't know what the fuck they're doing. I will happily watch that, listen to that all the time, because I see things that I don't expect. I hear things that my musical brain won't allow, as it were, and I go, fuck, that's a thing that I've just experienced, rather than another million things that follow the same rules. And even though my music probably does follow 95% of the rules, I'm still probably more excited when we do something we're not meant to than I am at any other time, even though that's the exact thing someone like me will probably say, that's the wrong note in, you know, that scale, or what I've just done to their music, you know. Kind of go, you can't actually do that, guys. It's like, although I think it's really exciting that you have, and I'm enjoying, you know, I Wish I Was James Bond more than I'm enjoying, you know, half of the Smiles record, because they're following the rules very, very well, and they're doing this interesting, cool shit. But there's like because you know that the artist knows what they're doing, I think that affects things massively, which is why I really enjoy you know, filmmakers that also don't know what the fuck they're doing. It's fascinating. A lot of it's very funny, but sometimes something will occur that, you know, Christopher Nolan wouldn't do, because they couldn't get back into that mindset where you don't know anything, where you're creating just from your lack of knowledge, which is kind of the best form of, well, not the best, but I think it's the most exciting place sometimes to observe, because I can never go back. That's the problem.
No, it's true, isn't it? I mean, like, I think about the way, like, I make video essays when I do it, and I'm very conscious of the fact that I don't really know what I'm doing. It's not something like, you know, I've trained in like video editing, but I know like how you make video essays, and I find myself putting on like a tone of voice that I know that you're supposed to do. I hate it. I hate editing myself. It's so horrible.
There's this thing that quite a few YouTubers do now, where they kind of extend the last vowel. So they'll be like, and then I got a glass of water. And I don't know who exactly it is. There's a guy who does it really, really prominently, and I've heard 2 more people do it recently. Anyway, don't start doing that.
No, but the thing is, I don't know. I know I have these annoying habits, because I edit myself, obviously, when I'm doing it to put it out. And I'm just like, I just sound like every other knobhead. I wish I was a little bit less cognizant of like how things are done. Like it feels, I don't know. It's the stuff, again, when you watch YouTube or whatever, it's like this stuff is a bit more interesting. Like this, it's just a bit weird. And again, I think generally across the board, obviously, the more you know about your art form, the better. But there's something about that naivety. If you
something
can go back
gets
to
lost the thing that gets lost is the naivety, and you can't get it back. And sometimes it's actually, that was always the best thing you had, which is a hard thing to stomach, I think. When we made our first record, we did loads of things we probably wouldn't do now, and I did lots of things in the way I wrote words or way I sang that I think that I'm better at, but other people will disagree, and I can't go back. That's the thing about creation and learning and art, is that you can't go back. You can try, and you can find ways to fake it or to throw yourself off course, but it's just one of those things. Sometimes you get the best spark halfway through your career. Sometimes you get it at the end. Sometimes you get it at the start. It's just the way it goes.
Yeah, true. That's an interesting note to end on. But you've just released an album. Do you feel like
we have? And of course, that's the spark I'm talking about.
There we go. Yeah. Exactly. Perfect. Brilliant. Yeah. Cool. Brilliant. I think that's a good place to wrap up then. Do you want to say anything as a goodbye? Up to you.
Check out Dean Heslop's song that we talked about. Check out all the songs, obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
And listen to my album. It's called Raw Data Feel, and it's awesome.
It is. It's very good. Yeah, I agree.
Thank you very much, sir.
Anyway, thanks for tuning in, and thank you for joining me.
Cheers.
John. Cool.
Thank you.